The alien officer was watching him long before his name was called. The recruitment station hummed with the nervous energy of 100 species waiting their turn. Lieutenant Krell of the Galactic Defense Coalition stood behind reinforced glass, his 4 eyes scanning the crowd with practiced indifference. He had processed thousands of applicants over his 12-year career, and humans had become a particular curiosity in recent months. They were the newest species to join the coalition, barely 3 cycles since first contact. Most races took decades to integrate, but humans had thrown themselves into galactic society with an enthusiasm that bordered on reckless. Krell found them simultaneously fascinating and exhausting. His gaze settled on one human in particular, seated in the 3rd row. The male sat perfectly still, while others fidgeted and whispered. He wore simple clothing, nothing remarkable, but something about his posture caught Krell's attention. The human's eyes moved constantly, tracking every door, every official, every exit. Not with fear, but with calculation. Krell pulled up the day's roster on his data tablet. The human's name was Marcus Webb, age 24 standard years. Previous occupation, salvage worker on the colony vessel Meridian. No military experience. No criminal record. Nothing that explained why Krell couldn't look away. The morning dragged on. Krell interviewed a Thalaxian engineer whose credentials were impeccable, but whose personality would doom any team dynamic. He rejected a Vryn pilot who clearly lied about flight hours. He approved a Corthan medic who would make an excellent addition to the medical corps. Through it all, he kept glancing at Marcus Webb. The human hadn't moved from his seat. He didn't read a datapad or engage with other applicants. He simply watched and waited. When a fight nearly broke out between 2 Grecian brothers, Webb's hand moved slightly toward his belt, then stopped. The motion took less than a second, but Krell caught it. Instinct, not thought. The mark of someone who had faced violence before. Interesting. Krell hauled his next applicant, a Palaxian female with ambitions for intelligence work. She was qualified, but treated the interview like a formality she was owed. He passed her through with recommendations for field evaluation, knowing she would probably wash out within weeks. The arrogant ones usually did. Webb still hadn't moved. The afternoon shift began. Krell's assistant, a young Thalaxian named Piran, brought him a nutritional cylinder and asked if he wanted a break. Krell declined. He wanted to be present when they called the human's name. "You've been staring at that one for hours," Piran observed, following his gaze. "Have I?" "Your outer eyes haven't left him." "What do you see?" Krell considered the question. What did he see? A human male of average build and unremarkable appearance. But humans were deceptive that way. They lacked the natural armor of Corthans, the venom of Vryn, the telepathic abilities of his own species. They had no evolutionary advantage that explained their rapid rise to prominence. Yet here they were. Volunteers flooding every coalition recruitment center across a dozen systems. "I see someone who doesn't belong here," Krell finally answered, then reject him. "I didn't say he was unsuitable. I said he doesn't belong here, in this waiting room with these people. He belongs somewhere else." Piran made a clicking sound that indicated confusion. "I don't understand. Neither do I, not yet." The queue advanced slowly. A Xanthari botanist hoping for agricultural corps placement. A human female who wanted navigation training. 2 Grecian siblings trying to enlist together. Each interview revealed something: competence or lack thereof, honesty or deception, strength or weakness. Webb continued to wait. Krell noticed other things as the hours passed. When a child from one of the family groups started crying, Webb's expression softened almost imperceptibly. When a Corthan veteran limped past on a prosthetic limb, Webb's eyes followed him with something like recognition. When a station announcement warned of a mechanical issue in the East Wing, Webb's body tensed, ready to move. He was the most alert person in the entire facility, and he was trying very hard not to show it. The sun was setting outside the station's viewports, painting the sky in shades of purple and orange. When they finally reached Webb's name on the roster, Peering called it over the CUM system, his translator rendering it in flat, emotionless standard. Marcus Webb, Station 7. The human stood smoothly. No rush, no hesitation. He walked to the interview booth with an economy of movement that suggested efficiency rather than hurry. When he sat down across from Krell, his hands rested loosely on his knees. His eyes met Krell's primary pair without challenge or submission. "Thank you for your patience," Krell began, standard protocol. "The recruitment process can be lengthy. I expected it. You've been here since dawn. Most humans grow restless. I'm not most humans." It wasn't arrogance in his voice, just statement of fact. Krell appreciated that. He accessed Webb's file on his tablet, though he had already memorized the contents. "Your application indicates salvage work as your primary experience. That's an unusual background for someone seeking combat placement. The form asked for occupation, not qualifications. Salvage work was my job. Staying alive in unstable environments was my qualification." "Explain." Webb leaned back slightly. "The Meridian was a colony ship that suffered catastrophic drive failure 18 months ago. We lost navigation, life support was failing, and we were drifting into a debris field. I was part of the crew that went outside to make repairs while everything was falling apart around us. We worked in vacuum, with failing equipment, knowing that any mistake would kill us and everyone we were trying to save. And you succeeded. We saved 4,000 people, lost 37 doing it. The number was delivered without pride or grief, just accuracy." Krell made a note on his tablet. This matched reports he had read about the Meridian incident. It had been significant news when it happened, though humans downplayed their own heroics with frustrating consistency. Why leave salvage work? Because fixing broken things on ships isn't where I'm needed anymore. There's a war coming, whether anyone wants to admit it or not. The Krethiks aren't going to stop at the outer colonies. When they push toward core systems, the Coalition will need people who know how to function when everything is going wrong. Krell's secondary eyes narrowed. "That's a pessimistic assessment. It's a realistic one. I've read the intelligence reports that get leaked. I've talked to traders coming from contested zones. The Krethiks are testing our responses, finding weaknesses. They're preparing for something bigger. And you believe you can make a difference. I know I can keep my head when others panic. I know I can make decisions under pressure. I know I don't quit when things get hard." Webb's expression didn't change. "That's more than most people can promise." Krell studied the human for a long moment. There was no bravado here, no false confidence. Just a quiet certainty that was either deeply earned or deeply delusional. Given what he had observed all day, he suspected the former. "Your psych evaluation shows concerning levels of hypervigilance," Krell said. "Watching for reaction. I'm aware. It could be a liability in combat situations. Or it could be why I'm still alive when others aren't." Webb met his gaze steadily. "I spent 6 hours in your waiting room today. I can tell you every exit, every security measure, every potential threat. I know which applicants have combat experience and which are lying about it. I know that your assistant carries a concealed weapon in violation of facility regulations, probably because there was an incident here before." Peering made a startled sound behind Krell. Webb ignored him. "You think hypervigilance is a flaw," Webb continued. "I think it's a survival trait. Put me on a ship with crew who need someone watching their backs, and I'll make sure they come home." Krell set down his tablet. "You knew I was watching you all day. From the moment I entered the facility. Why didn't you acknowledge it?" "Because I wanted to see what you were looking for." I wanted to know if this organization actually recognizes value or just processes forms. Webb tilted his head slightly. Which is it, Lieutenant? It was a bold question, bordering on insubordinate. Krell should have been offended. Instead, he felt something like satisfaction. This was what he had been looking for, though he hadn't known it until now. The Coalition needs soldiers, Krell said carefully. But more than that, we need people who understand what they're volunteering for, who see clearly without illusion. Most applicants think joining the Defense Coalition means adventure or glory. You know it means sacrifice. I know it means doing what needs to be done. Krell made his decision. He approved the application with a series of quick commands on his tablet. Webb's status changed from pending to accepted, flagged for advanced tactical training. Report to orientation at dawn tomorrow, Krell said. Bring only essential items. Everything else will be provided. Webb stood, gave a short nod, and turned to leave. He made it 3 steps before Krell spoke again. Webb. The human stopped, looked back. I was watching you because I couldn't figure out what made you different from the others. I understand now. What's that? You weren't waiting to be chosen. You were deciding whether we were worth your time. Krell allowed himself a rare smile. Welcome to the Coalition. Try not to make the rest of us look bad. Webb's expression finally shifted, just slightly, into something that might have been respy.